Josh Frydenberg has been awarded the 2024 Monash Medal for Rotary for his significant contribution to the Australian community, both in Parliament and beyond. He follows in the footsteps of distinguished Australians who've also been recognised with this honour. They include High Court Judge Michael Kirby, Professor Fiona Wood and America's Cup captain John Bertrand. The award is named after one of our military giants, Sir John Monash, a proud Jewish Australian. But you wonder, how would Sir John be feeling if he were alive today about the current global environment? Well, it's a question that Frydenberg himself put to the former Governor-General Peter Cosgroves in an interview for his documentary.
What do you think Sir John Monash, as Australia's greatest general, but also Australia's greatest Jewish Australian, would be feeling right now?
Well, I think Sir John would say this is not the Australia that we fought for in the war to end all wars. He'd be very sad that there is such an outbreak of violence in the Middle East, but here in Australia, he would be aghast.
And I spoke to Josh Frydenberg a little earlier. Josh, welcome again to the show.
Nice to be with you, Sharri.
You're standing outside the Shrine of Remembrance. Australia's greatest general, Sir John Monash, was the driving force behind it. You've now been recognised for your leadership and service with this medal during your parliamentary career, but also since then. What does this medal mean to you?
Well, Sharri, it's a real honour, particularly at this time. Sir John Monash is unarguably one of our greatest ever Australians, and his personal qualities, but also his personal contribution to secure the freedoms that we now enjoy, echoes through the ages. And so to be recognised with this medal at this time is particularly special.
Some of our viewers might not know the detail about Sir John Monash's legacy and the importance to Australia of his contribution. Can you tell us why his story and his legacy remain so powerful even today?
Well, Sharri, it's not just his feats in war, but it was also his contributions during peacetime, which were so significant. Sir John Monash was trained as an engineer, and he brought those skills to the battlefield in World War I. After Gallipoli, he then went to France, and he commanded Australian and American troops who went into battle for the first time together on the 4th of July 1918 in the Battle of Hamel, and they routed the opposing forces in just 93 minutes, and it was seen as an example of modern day warfare where he was able to integrate infantry, artillery, tanks and the Air Force in a very superior and well thought out battle plan. Then in the Battle of Amiens, later on, again, he played a significant role in commanding his troops to victory, and that was described by General Ludendorff from the German army as the blackest day for the German army in World War I. And those achievements, Sharri, were recognised when King George V actually went to Bertangles in France and knighted Sir John on the battlefield, the first time a reigning monarch had done so in some 200 years. And then, of course, after the war, he was really important in repatriating some 160,000 Australian troops, and then played a leading role as the head of the State Electricity Commission here in Victoria, turning Victoria into an industrial powerhouse. He was the Vice-Chancellor of Melbourne University. He was the President for the Association of the Advancement of Science. And he just played a lead role across society in Australia at that time. So much so that when he died in 1931, some 300,000 Australians lined the streets in Melbourne to pay their respects. That was, more than a quarter of the Melburnian people who lived in Melbourne at that time. Quite a remarkable sign of respect for quite a remarkable Australian.
He is indeed one of the great Australians. Reflecting on his contribution, and not just here but globally, how is his legacy still relevant around the world?
Well, Sir John Monash wasn't a warmonger. He was a brilliant mind who recognised that he needed to bring those skills to help secure the freedoms that we now enjoy. And right now we're seeing authoritarian regimes on the march around the world, in the battlefields of Europe, obviously Ukraine and Russia, the Middle East, and the conflict between Israel and Iranian proxies. We're obviously seeing tensions in the South China Sea, and we see tensions on the Korean Peninsula. So authoritarian regimes are on the march around the world, yet democracies are very divided. And I think, the message of Monash is, how to bring that strength to bear to bring victory on the battlefield. And as well as that, all these other contributions to the community are so significant. So it's really the values that Monash espoused which are so relevant today.
Josh, you referred to the unrest we're seeing globally. We just played a moment ago Sir Peter Cosgroves' comments from your documentary, where he said he thinks Monash would be aghast at the anti-Semitism we're seeing today. Do you think he would be simply shocked at how the democratic world is dealing with this problem?
Well, Sharri, Sir John Monash was a proud Australian and also a proud Jew, and he never saw a conflict between his faith and his citizenship. He was a foundation president of the Zionist Federation of Australia. He sang in the Hebrew choir at his local synagogue. And I think Sir Peter Cosgrove is absolutely right when he sees here in Australia demonstrations outside synagogues and when he sees some of the sloganeering on our streets and the intimidation and the violence against the Australian Jewish community, he would be appalled. And back in his day, because he was such a towering figure, because he was so integral to the success of Australian and Western forces in Europe and in World War I. I mean, anti-Semitism just, was not allowed effectively because there was just no credibility to it at that time because of Monash's example and the standing of Monash, among other things. I think today anti-Semitism has, to a degree, been normalised, even here in Australia, which is, quite horrible to consider. So he would be aghast, and I'm sure he'd be using his voice, Sharri, to call for reason and for sanity to prevail.